What is going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday to everyone that is in the stream or might join after or watch it on replay. Thank you for coming through. It's Wednesday, which means it's First and Ted, our latest episode. This is like the post 53 slash practice squad announcement, and then whatever other junk we decide to throw on top of it. We might talk quarterback. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's a hot topic or anything. But before we do that, I just want to ask my co-host, how is he doing?
Can't complain, Aaron. Better now to be here with you. Thanks for having me, and excited to chop it up with you here today. I titled my show something a little different. I titled it something about Bosa, basically about Bosa's contract standoff with the 49ers threatens to derail the season. It's a little before that Jason Dumas update, but I don't totally trust that update anyway. So,
well, Kyle actually mentioned it, and they asked him, and he said there's no. They asked him if there's any chance that the 49ers would deal Bosa, and he said with a firm no. I think John Lynch might have commented on it too. But do we believe anything that they say nowadays?
He said, right? I can imagine anything, didn't he? Though at one point, he said, "I can imagine anything," and they said, "Can you imagine him not being ready week one?" And he said, "I can imagine anything." I don't think they'll trade him. I don't.
That would be if you think the quarterback situation is a good way to derail your fan base. Don't resign Bosa, your best player on defense, and see what that does to you.
I mean, other than Trent Williams, best player on the team.
I mean, we've already. This fan base has been split for a while now between Jimmy and Trey and Brock, and you let something like that happen, you might as well just shut it down because, I mean, people will show up, people will watch all that stuff, but that's just ridiculous. You can't let something like that happen, no matter what. And
but we've talked about it quite a bit, throughout the weeks and months of the off season, and I was always very clear, like, hey, everybody has their price, right? And at some point, you get to a price where it's just too much, and that you're better off to trade them and get the picks, or players and picks, ideally.
That was the famous saying from the $1 Million Man. Everybody has a price.
Yeah, I mean, I saw somebody say Bosa wants 50 mil. I'm like, okay, 50 mil, that's too much. I mean, honestly, I think 40 mil a season is too much for an edge. At least at this point in time, in a few years, we'll probably get there, right? The way these contracts keep ballooning. But for now, I think that 35 to 37 range is sort of where you start to reach the sticking point of what makes sense vis-a-vis the rest of the roster and vis-a-vis the rest of the players. And there's some thought that he could just be waiting for Chris Jones to get his deal and then say, okay, that's what he got. Now pay me a little bit more. That's possible, because we all kind of assume Chris Jones will get more than Aaron Donald, right?
Right. And Chris Jones is on the upside of his career. Aaron Donald's, he's in his twilight. James Durnall says Kyle wouldn't make it out of the Bay Area alive if he shopped Trey and Bosa within the same week. Yeah, listen, it was a Reddit post by a random user. I mean, we have to, you know what it is? We're all of us, we're just so, I can't say gun shy. That's not the word I'm looking for. We're just we're shell shocked by what happened with Trey Lance, and just this organization continues to give fans and media drama to sink their teeth into. They're never without it. For a California being supposed to be this laid back kind of side of the United States, there's sure a hell of a lot of drama coming out of a Bay Area team. This is something that's supposed to happen with the Yankees. I mean, the Yankees are having a horrible year. Their media's all over them, but like, come on, Niners. Like, we're Bay Area, dude. We're supposed to be chill. And like, there's so much drama always coming out of Ninerland. It's ridiculous. There's always something. There's always a headline. If it's not on ESPN or NFL Network, the Bay Area guys are always talking about it. Grant, you have, anybody who's worth a damn that reports for the 49ers. So hopefully we keep Bosa and we don't have to worry about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, speaking of drama, did you catch Kyle's presser this afternoon?
I did catch part of it. I didn't catch all of it, but there was a question asked to him what he thought about the Jimmy Garoppolo comments.
He took the high road, so good for him. But then things got a little weird, or should I say unusual.
Things got a little unusual. I have the video clips if you want to play them.
Feel free. Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna because that's what we do here. We encourage drama because that means people will watch, right? Whatever. So
theoretically,
part of it theoretically, yeah. You're maybe not. So this was the Jimmy Garoppolo part, and then I'll kind of cut it off at a certain point, and then I'll have Kyle respond to kind of the overall question or statement that was made by Jimmy on this podcast, radio show, whatever. So here we go.
What did you make of the Trey Lance trade to Dallas?
Weird situation. Been a lot of weird situations over there in San Francisco. Just to leave it at that. But I'm happy Trey got another shot, man.
How do you think San Francisco's handled those quarterback situations?
How do you think they've handled them?
I think it's been messy. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it.
Jimmy now commenting on it, or Trey.
All right, and then this is the response by Kyle Shanahan. He's responding to the Jimmy Garoppolo comment and, kind of giving his spin on it, as only Kyle can do. Oh, hold on a second.
Can you acknowledge that? Yeah, it kind of has been a weird situation here last few years.
Yeah, I think anytime you trade up to the third pick in the draft and it doesn't work out, that's a weird situation. But that is the situation. So that's what happened. I don't think it's that weird. It's unusual that it doesn't work out. But I wouldn't think that's weird. I think it's unusual. What do you think?
Well, I think you would look back at Jim, the fact that he said goodbye, the day after that one season's over, and he's, all the things that happened with him physically. He comes back, he's, on the side field and ends up re-signing and starting, and it just seems like, it's been a unique.
Do you remember why that happened?
I remember why everything happened, but I'm just saying it's been a unique situation.
I agree, it's been unique. Thanks, guys.
I was on Twitter after I decided I was going to upload this to the stream, and I tweeted, I'm okay with Kyle eating crow or eating whatever he's got to eat as far as the Trey Lance debacle goes. I'm okay with that. Like, he deserves all the heat. He deserves all the, whatever the fans, whatever vitriol they want to throw him. But Jimmy Garoppolo, come on, dude. Really? Stephen A. Smith said it in the most eloquent way you could put it. Shut up. Like, nobody wants to hear from you. Why are you talking? Like, all the times that you were hurt and couldn't play, and people make it like he was the man that stirred the bus, so to speak, when it was always the defense and everything else that carried this team. And I don't know. I have a hard time listening to Jimmy cackle and make comments on top of the Trey Lance situation. Trey Lance situation is a whole other thing. I agree. You'll go get Kyle, say what you got to say about him. Ted disagrees. Ted thinks that Jimmy freaking nailed it and he loves it because Ted's pissed at Kyle right now. How do you feel about all that?
Pissed at Kyle. Well, I just feel like with Kyle, if we're to win now to develop Lance, then we damn well better win a Super Bowl now. And that's how I feel. And until Kyle wins his first ever Super Bowl, he's on my SHI you-know-what list.
No, I agree. I can understand that.
Yeah. So, I'm just, I can't believe he installed Darnold as QB2. And then I'm glad that Trey, manned up and said, hey, I'm out. I'd rather be QB3 anywhere but here. And I think, I always mentioned to you, like, the one thing I wondered about Trey was, does he have that killer attitude, that quarterbacks really need to kind of like tear your heart out and show it to you while it's still beating. And I'm not that this is that, but I think this is a little bit of that. I think this is a little glimpse of Trey not just being a pushover and saying, okay, Kyle, I'll be your QB3. Probably, I'm sure his agent had something to do with it too. But no, I've been getting a lot of grief from a lot of people Because I've been saying that I don't think we're going to win the Super Bowl this year. This just feels different to me than the last 4 seasons. And a lot of people are saying, well, if you have doubts about Brock, then you can't root for him. I'm like, that's bull. I can definitely root for him even if I don't think he's going to be good enough to get the job done. And, and with Kyle, like I said, yeah, he needs to win a Super Bowl right now to make this all make sense. And if, Purdy doesn't play well or gets injured and Darnold comes in and doesn't play well, there's going to be hell to pay. There's going to be a lot of people that are really upset, just like me. I might be the spearhead, but there's a lot of people that feel the way I do.
I agree that there's a weird sense around this team. There's a weird vibe around this team this offseason. And like you said, winning a Super Bowl would cure a lot of those things. I'm a little bit more optimistic than you that this team can do it. To me, the health is the biggest concern for the 49ers if they can stay healthy. The NFC is a little bit down this year. At least we think they're going to be down. So even if the Niners were to say stumble out the gate again for like the whatever season in a row, I feel like there's a chance that they can still be a wild card team. And them on the road in the playoffs, they're really good. I just don't think that it's advantageous for them to be a road team again. I think they need to get the number 1 seed and come out fast. But it's every offseason, man, it's the same thing. And there's just always some strife going on in the Bay Area. I don't know. Jimmy Garoppolo to me, just I don't want to hear from him. And somebody made a good point in the comments. He's not our problem anymore. But the media is going to take his comments and run with it because it's newsworthy. But I don't know. I just don't want to hear from him for all the stuff that they went through with him and him never like completing one full season, and just all the credit that he got for team success. I know you're big on not giving Brock Purdy the key to the city and saying he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and saying whoa, let's pump the brakes a little bit. He's essentially Jimmy, kind of, in a way, maybe a little bit better, but not much. Well, that's how I feel in my case about Jimmy Garoppolo. I think Jimmy Garoppolo was given too much credit for essentially just driving the bus, so to speak. And when he was called upon to play in the big game and make a big time throw and to win a game, he played horrible in the Super Bowl. So I'll wait to reserve judgment for Brock until I see Brock in a similar situation. And if Brock folds like a wet blanket too, then the criticism is fair. But I'm a little bit, I don't know, something about Brock's personality that has me like him a little bit more. I still wish Trey Lance was still here. I think that I still think Trey should have been the backup this year, and Darnold should have been third string, or whoever the other guy is. He doesn't.
Our QB room got a lot weaker.
I 100% agree with you. For anybody who thinks that this quarterback room is strong, this is the weakest quarterback room that it's been in a long time. If Brock Purdy goes down, we're toast. It's over.
Toast.
We're done. That's how much of a precipitous drop off there is between QB1 and QB2.
Same thing with CMC.
What's that?
Same thing with CMC.
Oh, to the next possible running back below him? Well, yeah.
Because TDP's a bust. Mason's a fumbler. Eli Mitchell can't stay healthy.
It's true.
I don't trust any of that. And now, if Debo can fill in, Debo has shown that he could in limited fashion fill in there. So that's kind of the only hope in my book. If CMC goes down, is another 2021 Debo situation.
I will agree with Randy. He says most of all teams, their starter goes down, their toast. Yeah, like if the Chiefs lost Mahomes, it's over with. They're not going to win a Super Bowl. They might do a little bit of stuff because they have a decent roster, but yeah. But with the 49ers, it's like, whew. I mean, at least with Trey Lance, he had athleticism and he had a strong arm, and there was just, I don't know, there's things you could scheme up and mess with and, I don't know, construct a different kind of offense with them. With the other guys, it's just plain ass throwing from the pocket. And neither of them are as heady or as intelligent or as in control of their, I don't know, their ability to like face pressure than Brock is. You talk all the S you want about Brock's body and his inability to do this, that, but the guy does have serious testicular fortitude. He just does. It's obvious he doesn't get. At least we haven't seen it yet that he succumbs to pressure and folds.
He's a mental giant.
For a small guy, yeah, he's got a big old brain, but we don't know. We really don't.
And like you said, like I think he's a little bit better than Jimmy. Obviously, a lot younger, like over 20 times cheaper. So those are all positives. And yeah, as far as likability, I mean, yeah, and attitude, and Brock is a leader and he's smart. Yeah, I mean, there's no comparison there with Jimmy. It's just the results are fairly similar, and people want to beat up Jimmy for the playoffs, and I get that, and I have, especially the fourth quarter playoff games. But you got to keep in mind, Jimmy never had CMC for the playoffs, just like Lance never had CMC, period. And that's why anybody's saying, like, oh, the offense looked better with Purdy than with Lance. I'm just like, you can't really say that because we never really saw it. I think it probably would be, but, being honest, but you can't say it till you see it. And we're not going to see it. We're never going to see it. Unless Trey Lance comes back somehow.
Somehow in the future, he makes his way back.
Sure.
Peltz made a great point, Rich. He says, it sucks that our leader is a lying defensive brat, and it doesn't represent the Red and Gold's legacy that has been built by real leaders. It's unfortunate, real talk. Yeah, Kyle's a very bratty individual. Kyle doesn't like quarterbacks that challenge his leadership or his control over everything. That's why I've said this a million times. Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady would never, ever come here. Kyle needs a puppet that he can manipulate. I don't think Brock is as much of he's not as much, what is the word, pussy whipped as far as being that kind of guy, but still, like, Trey was a very chill demeanor. You get that from Darnold, and of course you get that from the third string quarterback too. Like, none of those guys seem like a guy that's going to command a room and slam the table and say, listen, I'm the leader, follow me. That's what Kyle wants. And unfortunately, like Ted said, you only can go so far. And if you're okay with NFC championship games and division titles, then, we're good. But if you want a Super Bowl title, that's a whole different story. Now, I'll reserve judgment until this year is over. I'm hoping Ted is wrong, because I'm
hoping I'm wrong.
I will throw receipts in his face, but in a very loving, respectful way.
I'm hoping I'm wrong too. Like, people are like, "Oh, you just want to be right." I'm like, no, I'd much rather be happy than right. This is a feeling I get. This just feels different than the last 4 years. I was like really bullish in 2019 when Jimmy was coming off, the ACL, and we had gotten D Ford and we had drafted Bosa. There was a lot of like positive energy coming into 2019. 2020, we ran back almost the whole Super Bowl team besides Emmanuel Sanders and Defoe. And then 2021, I was still positive about the team, obviously with Trey Lance, thinking that he would take over some point in that season. And then last year with Trey Lance starting, but 2021, 22, very strong QB rooms with Jimmy, Lance, and then last year obviously with Purdy. At QB3, which I won't beat that one to death since I've done it so many times.
Jeff A. KC, I'm going to take it that you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan. I'm just going to put it out there. He says, I always wonder how much Kyle's dad is involved. He's somewhat involved. I don't think he's their day-to-day operation guy, but
there's some people who thought he might have been a Trey Lance guy for the draft. Mike Shanahan.
One of these days, we're going to find out, Ted, who pulled the trigger on Trey Lance getting drafted and who was against it. I would love to know. I would love to have a rat come out of that room one day and just be like, you know what? Kyle did not want Trey Lance. That was a John Lynch pick, or vice versa. But knowing the way things are, just based on mostly what the 49ers have done since they've been here, other than Trey Lance's situation getting reported and John Lynch saying, he didn't think it would happen. They've been pretty tight-lipped, so probably never going to hear that, but be interesting, because I don't know, man. I'm sick of the drama. I just want victories and Super Bowl championships. But hey, you wanna look over the roster and practice squad and kind of change the subject a little bit? or would you rather?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm sure we'll
Okay.
circle back to it later too. So,
All right. So I have paper copies because I'm that kind of guy. So I figure the quarterback room we don't really need to talk about too much. We could start with I'll start with the whiteouts, and some of this might be changing because of the injury to Danny Gray and Ray McLeod.
Yeah.
So the whiteouts that made it were Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, Ronnie Bell, Ray McLeod, and Danny Gray. Based on just the room before the practice squad was announced today, how much are you surprised, or were you pretty much thinking this was kind of the room from jump, other than Ronnie Bell kind of playing his way into the starting lineup, or not starting lineup, but playing his way onto the 53?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Ray would have been wide receiver 4 if he was healthy. Ronnie Bell did a great job. Bell the Bull, great yak. Super happy with him. And now really our only healthy returner, assuming that Ray won't be back week 1, which Kyle kind of said he might, but I'm not counting on Ray being back week 1 until we hear it's 100% that's going to happen. So for me, the surprises were, I thought Chris Conley really rocked out in camp and absolutely deserved it more than Danny Gray. But Danny Gray had that 3rd round draft capital, and he's so fast. Conley's fast too, and a lot bigger. And then Willie Snead was somebody I thought we'd want to get on the practice squad, and we did. And then Tay Martin, I think, was after those guys, but young, and so there's a lot of potential with Tay Martin. And I was glad to see that we got Isaiah Winstead on there too, because he's a really great route runner. And he's tall. He's not huge, but he's 6'4". So, yeah, I mean, I was a little worried yesterday when I saw who we had kept, because I thought Conley, Snead, Tay, and whoever I'm forgetting. Winstead, thank you, might not make it. But now that they're all on the practice squad, that's a good start. I'm really happy to see that.
Yep, Chris Conley made it.
Like you said, Danny's on IR. I think it's the short-term version, not the season-ending. And because if it was season-ending, they wouldn't have waited for the 53-man roster to do it. They would have.
Right. I think it might be a 4-game situation that he's going to miss, something like that, like the first 4 games. You could designate someone for short-term IR. Yeah, the receiver room. I thought at least. Conley or God, my brain is fried right now. Willie Snead would make it on the initial until I saw, who was there because of the injury situation. But the fact that we got a guy like Willie Snead, like a veteran wide receiver, he's been on this team a couple years, but he looked really good this preseason. And then Chris Conley,
he blocks really well. That's the key with Willie Snead.
He's a little guy. They said he has 11.5-inch hands.
Huge.
I wish I had mitts like that. I would have played in the NFL. Pause. Anyways, but yeah, those 2 guys. I'm glad that they both make it to the practice squad, because I think the Niners, injuries happen. We know how this team works. We know how Deebo plays. We know how all these guys play. So it's. I like having 2 veteran guys back there that if they need to come in for a game or two, to be some sort of depth or some sort of injury replacement, that we have some guys with experience. And then of course, Winstead and Tay Martin. Be interesting to see if they're youth, and I think hopefully one of them will kind of take a step forward maybe next year in training camp or something. Because Juwan Jennings probably isn't here for the long haul.
Oh no, he's done after this year.
I think Ronnie Bell is going to take that job, and then you got to start looking to the future with Deebo and Juwan and Brandon Ayuk. I mean, Deebo plays a really physical style of ball. Is Deebo here for the long haul? You got to start looking at some of these young guys. So
Deebo also has a huge contract. As much as I love him,
right,
we're paying him a ton of dough. I mean, as much as Trent Williams. So
a real 49er fan looks at the practice squad and looks at a lot of the things that the Niners do after the 53 and say to themselves, like, okay, this guy's a project right now, but I could see him in a couple years taking off the red shirt and actually putting on the red jersey and be an actual active player that actually contributes. For all the things that the Niners suck at and problems that they create for themselves, The one thing I will say is they're a very successful team when it comes to redshirting some of their own players and eventually getting them on the field where they become productive players that actually play. So if you look like I'm going to go down the whole list, but I'm pretty happy with their practice squad, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no doubt. I liked Sterling Bennett did a nice one where it was broken out by position groups to make it easier to read. Just the last thing on the wide receivers, I'd just say with Danny Gray, I knew he had the 3rd round designation, obviously, where we picked him, but I just wonder how much use there is for him on this team with Purdy throwing him the ball, unless Purdy improves his deep ball. I don't see it being a natural fit, or unless Danny Gray learns to run some other routes besides the 9 route. So the go.
Yeah, who's blinking first? Is it Brock Purdy going to suddenly gain 15 yards on his arm, or is Mr. Gray going to learn how to run, like, I don't know, a slant, a go, a comeback, a hitch? I'm thinking the wide receiver might not need to give first before the quarterback. Brock is.
I think that's more likely. I mean, come on, like.
Now I know Ted would want the quarterback to learn how to throw deeper. And
absolutely, absolutely. But what's more realistic?
Right.
I think Danny Gray learning to run more routes.
Right. Tight end, George Kittle, Braden Willis, Ross Dwelly, Charlie Warner. I'm like, come on with Charlie Warner.
I think it's just special teams for Charlie Warner and blocking.
He's a really good blocker. Dwelly, why? I think the only reason Dwelly didn't make this team is that Latu, 1, got injured, and 2 is just really raw and needs a ton of work. I thought he was going to get cut, to be honest with you. And so,
but then he had that game with Trey Lance where Lance had that great, a couple great drives in a row. He hit him on a 3rd and long to get a first, and he hit him for the TD, off to the right, pretty deep TD. I think it was a tip ball, in fact. But yeah, Latu kind of saved his own bacon there, I think.
Yeah, the tight end room to me is kind of not really. There's not much inspiration.
I'm just glad Fumagali's on the practice squad because I'd love to see him. Yeah, I'd love to see him take. I thought he might make the 53, and I'd love to see him take Dwelly's job.
This is exactly how I feel about Warner. Womp, womp, womp. Exactly. Yeah. No, there's just nothing. He just, ugh.
If Latu had played better, Warner would have been gone.
Yeah, so the tight end group pretty much is just whatever. Fullback, we have Kyle Juszczyk, but on the practice squad, we could have the future fullback of this team because the 49ers actually brought back to the practice squad Jack Coletto, which a lot of people are saying could be the future fullback of this team once Kyle Juszczyk ages out, if he ever does. Because, 1, he'd be cheap, and 2, like, he is extremely talented. He's kind of a jackknife player, kind of like Kyle Juszczyk. So what is your thought on that? Or would you like to see, were you a big Coletto guy, or because I was?
I was worried he was going to get claimed. There were a lot of teams that were supposedly interested before the cuts, which included the Seahawks, the Chiefs, the Jets, the Dolphins, I think maybe the Texans too. A lot of the Kyle, of course, coaching tree, maybe the Titans. I don't know if they run a fullback there. But, I would just say don't get too attached because even though nobody was ready to sign him to their 53-man roster right away, they might be more willing to when things shake out further into the season. So fingers crossed that he can stay on the practice squad the whole season. But I'd be, I don't know, lying if I said I felt like he was safe. I think he'll be
a team like a team like Miami or the Jets or teams that run a certain type of offense might poach him at some point.
Yep,
knowing that he's there.
Highly likely.
Yeah, unfortunately, you might be right, but we can dream. John V thinks that fullback is overrated. I think the Niners
only when you're paying him $7 million, but
that loves.
And we're not really paying you $7 million. It's his cap hit in 2024 and 2025 is $7 million, but he is 5 average annual value. But we just backloaded it like we do. But yeah, no, if we could get a cheap replacement for Juice, that would be unbelievable.
Let's go to offensive line, which to me is probably the weakest group on this team.
Yeah.
Other than the starters. And even, there's questions there with center and stuff. So we got Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Brendel, Burford, not Buford, people, say it right. Burford, Colton McKivitz. No surprise there.
None.
The one surprise that everybody had was the fact that the 49ers let, of course, his name's going to escape me now.
Ilm Manning.
Ilm Manning ended up making it, to the Cardinals? They claimed him, correct?
They claimed him and the other guy, too, Ishmael.
Yeah, so
the center.
The Niners' backups are John Feliciano, Jalen Moore, the horrible Nick Zakelj, and Matt Pryor. Why they decided to keep Nick Zakelj, other than he has longer arms than Ilm Manning, I think that's literally the only reason why they kept him. This is arm length.
He's a little bigger. Ilm Manning's only 6'2", so that's awfully short if you want somebody to play tackle.
Yeah,
it's kind of the same thing Joey Fisher ran into,
Yeah, tackle is a tall man's position.
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks, man.
Yeah.
This offensive line doesn't inspire me at all. I very much, if anybody gets hurt, we're in serious trouble.
Yeah.
And then you look at the quarterback situation, even if Trey stayed, it's like Trey got hurt, Jimmy got hurt, Brock got hurt. And then we have this, awesome offensive tackle who's probably one of the greatest of all time, Hall of Fame, but he doesn't play all the time. He misses a lot of games, Trent Williams, because of just his size and physicality. And Jalen Moore, man, is he bad. This is probably one of the worst backups, group of backups, offensive linemen that I've ever seen on a team that is trying to contend for a Super Bowl. This is just bad. That's really bad.
Zero depth. Yeah, and it's just odd that we didn't claim anybody either. There's all these players floating around, and we're like, nah, we're good. And I get it. We have this sort of Super Bowl roster, but you just think there might be someone somewhere that could be better than what we had. Even if they don't know the system, they didn't go through camp to get the reps, which is very important. That you would think that there would be some. I guess there's the one guy, but he's on the practice squad, the Shamar guy from the corner from the Green Bay Packers.
Right.
But that's the only person we picked up, to my knowledge. And that's not to the 53-man roster, obviously, just to the practice squad.
James Durnall made a great point. He's like, Ilm and Fisher were the best of a bad bunch. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they thought Ilm Manning would get back to the practice squad. It was just there were two that really stung, right?
Yeah.
Ilm Manning and Deshaun Jameson.
Yeah, Jameson, I don't know. I kind of think that they are looking forward to Luter coming back, and maybe that's why he didn't make the squad. Maybe Luter is closer than we think. I don't know. I'm sure we'll get some sort of designation before week 1 to find out if he's on short-term. I think he's still on the PUP list. I'm not positive. So anybody
who's on PUP because it happened before camp.
Okay.
Or maybe even before.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it was before camp. It was after OTAs and minicamp.
We're going to switch to cornerback here. We have Charvarius Ward. Okay. No surprise. Diamador Lenore. Sam Womack, who I thought had a decent preseason. Some people were like, I don't know about that. Did you watch him versus the Raiders? Like, well, he played well when I was actually paying attention. So, Ambry Thomas and Isaiah Oliver. The last two, I know Ambry Thomas started slow and had a good camp towards the end and kind of showed out in the preseason, but I don't know, man. I'm not extremely confident with Ambry. And then Isaiah Oliver, the big free agent pickup, who I almost thought was a sure cut, ends up sticking. Let's see. And
that's the one a lot of people are mad about. They wanted Jameson instead of Isaiah Oliver, but it's not like they're interchangeable. Isaiah Oliver is there to cover big slots and tight ends, and he's a big guy, and to stop the run. And so, yeah, but it's kind of it's hard to understand, especially when you have Ray and Danny Gray out as far as returning. It leaves us only Ronnie Bell as a returner, and Jameson was very explosive as a returner and good coverage. I just hope he doesn't turn out to be DJ Reed 2.0 is what I tweeted today.
Right.
Because that one sure stung. Him going to the Seahawks. Now he's on the Jets on the other side of Sauce Gardner, as a very talented cornerback that we could, I mean, maybe arguably better than anyone we have other than maybe Charvarius Ward on a good day.
Yeah, Luke Luna made a good point. He said, Ambry has played better in games than in practice. Oliver has guaranteed money. If anything, they should try to squeeze Ambry to the practice squad. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Ambry is one of their one of their 53. They just, I know that
third round pick too. That's
roster politics.
Yep.
Then they have Quantrez Knight on the practice squad and Trey Swilling. I'm happy that Quantrez Knight made it. That's a name that a lot of people.
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying Quantrez Knight kind of can do everything. He can play safety in a pinch and he can play corner. He's not like great, but considering you have a guy that can kind of rotate on the defense and say like, okay, something happens at safety, two guys go down and you need one guy to kind of pop in there for a little bit. He can do that. My question to you, Ted, is would you take Ambry and put him outside as a starter and put Deommodore Lenoir in the slot because Deommodore Lenoir said he was okay with that? Or would you Womack and put him outside and put Deommodore Lenoir in the slot still?
No, I mean, I think you go with Ambry on the boundary, Lenoir at nickel, and then I think you'll see Isaiah Oliver on base packages, Lenoir and nickel is what they're talking about for the smaller, speedier, for like, your Cooper Kupps and your Tyler Lockett.
B agrees with me a little bit. He wants Womack outside and Demo in the slot. Yeah, that's just my personal opinion. I'm not saying that you're wrong or anything. I'm just
no, it's fine. I mean,
scares me.
I was bagging on Ambry big time in camp. I think you remember me saying like
you were there most of the time, so I respect your.
He was burnt toast, and people were saying, "Oh, well, Brock Purdy's going up against the first team D, Ted." And I said, "Well, most of Brock Purdy's completions were against Ambry Thomas and AJ Parker, and those guys are closer to off the team than first team."
You were right,
but Ambry showed up in that Raiders game, and he's showed up since. And so, and I did say all along this offseason, like I thought the Wilkes system would be a good fit for Ambry because he was a man specialist at Michigan. And when you blitz a lot, like Wilkes supposedly likes to do, we're starting to see him do, then you end up with a lot of man coverage on the backside, or at least half the field man coverage. And so that kind of plays to Ambry's strengths a little bit. And again, that third round draft pick, as much as I like Womack, I think he was a fifth or I think it was a sixth round pick. Lee Galland would be mad at me for not knowing that. Sixth round, I'm going to go with draft pick. So,
or like your overpronunciation of burnt toast.
She's the one who came up with technical Ted. We gave Bash credit for it, but it was her.
And then he says butt naked burnt toast. Man, that's even worse.
Shoo.
Ass hanging out and you're getting toasted. That would suck. Let's see here. Let's move to linebackers, which is I think our strongest group on the roster, and it's not even a close argument to any other position group. When I talked to was it Raj? Raj thinks that our running back group and our linebackers are 1A as far as depth, if everybody's healthy, as far as strength. You do not. You think that the running backs are a little bit, there's a precipitous drop off after Christian McCaffrey. But as far as linebackers go,
well, Elijah Mitchell is a great back. He's a better runner than CMC, but just the health thing, you just can't count on him. But then Mason's a fumbler. We saw it in camp, and we saw it in the Charger game. That first drive down, he fumbled right on the goal line and cost us a TD, Purdy's offense a TD. and TDP can't block, and he just really hasn't shown that he can run that well in a real game either. So, I mean, TDP's a bust to me until he proves otherwise.
You know who else is a bust? He got released today, running back. That was here. We drafted him. What was that? Who we get? We drafted him in the 3rd round, correct?
Trey Sermon.
Trey Sermon
got released from the Eagles. That's correct.
Yeah, that sucks. So linebackers, we got Fred Warner.
Yeah, I was high on Sermon. Somebody was like, "Oh, Niner fans loved him." I'm like, "Yeah," or somebody DM'd it to me, and I was like, "Yeah, guilty as charged." I think I called him the Sermonator. I was so excited about him, just because he had like some 300-yard game, and I liked Fields, and I just liked the whole. I thought,
Donald Johnson.
I was wrong, though.
We talked about this at the very beginning. We are extremely concerned about our quarterback depth because after Brock Purdy, it's a huge drop off. Yeah. Let's hope we can keep him hurt. Yeah, let's hope we can keep him hurt all year. Hope we can keep him healthy all year. How about that? So linebackers, we have Warner, Greenlaw, Jalen Graham, which a lot of people were saying, he was an undrafted free agent, correct?
7th round.
He was a 7th rounder. Okay,
and also I real quick wanted to call out. Sorry to interrupt, but West Coast 57257, who's a huge Purdy fan, kind of a Lance hater, but that's fine. You're here, welcome. He said 5th round. I think that was for Womack, was a 5th rounder. So my bad on saying it was a 6th. But sorry. So you were talking about linebackers. Jalen Graham, Purdue.
Jalen Graham.
It's kind of a Fred Warner clone, basically.
They both can tackle really well. I thought that D Winters and him struggled a little bit in that last preseason game. There was some mistakes as far as guys not being where they need to be. Jalen Graham, D Winters, Oren Burks, Demetrius Flanagan Fowles. Raj does not like Flanagan Fowles. He thought McCrary Ball should have been kept. He thinks Flanagan Fowles is a fraud. That's exactly what he said. He's like, he's a fraud. He thinks that what Raj said was, we already have Oren Burks. We're supposedly, if we're going to use somebody for special teams, why do we need 2 special team linebackers? And McCrary was claimed today.
He was by the Jets.
Yep. Big surprise.
So
right?
The thing is with that is, I wasn't, a lot of people were unhappy that Oren Burks got kept, and McCrary Ball didn't, and they might be looking to trade one of these guys still. It might be that they tried to trade him going into the trade deadline, and maybe they're going to try and trade some after the dust settles here a little bit. We'll see. You got Jalen Graham as a Fred Warner clone, D Winters as a Dre Greenlaw clone, but Flanagan Fowles played really well in the preseason. He played his way back into good graces, I guess, because he was sort of on the bubble. Oren Burks is the one that I think didn't really play that well, but he's got guaranteed money, I think, and he's just an established name. So
I just think it's great that, if you think about it, we're 4 deep.
It's just weird to have 6 linebackers. That's a lot. I think we're still trying to trade one. Or one's just going to get cut, when like Bosa comes back, or if we have to sign a kicker. Remember, there's two positions we probably have to sort out before week 1, which is Bosa and the kicker, unless somehow Moody's back. Kyle didn't rule Moody out for week 1, but
no, John Lynch said they might look at a practice squad kicker, someone to come in and kind of be there just in case. But
I saw Vizcaino.
Yeah.
And then some other name that was more like Miliano or something like that.
Yeah, they had to kick over tables and chairs when they were here the other day because there was some sort of banquet going on, and something was going on in the practice field. And current view of 49ers kickers as they're coming in to try out, and it was like a bunch of I'm like, dude, did they really have to kick over tables and chairs on the practice field? That was hilarious. Then we go to D-line, and a couple developments have happened today. So Eric Armstead, Javon Hargrave, no surprise there. Robert Beal looks like he's going to go on the injured reserve, and I'm trying to think of who else was put on IR on top of Robert Beal. So you have essentially you're going to have the two guys, Austin Bryant,
Cleveland Farrell,
and Cleveland Farrell. No, Austin Bryant. Who was the other guy that they're going to bring back on the defensive line as edge rushers?
Drake
No,
Jackson,
nope. He's an interior. He was here and they let him go.
T.Y. McGill,
No, not T.Y. McGill. He's on the practice squad.
Givens,
Nope. Somebody help me out. Who's the other defensive
Kalia
lineman?
Davis.
No, not Kalia Davis. God, we're sucking right now. Oh, and Hyder. Kerry Hyder.
Hyder's kind of a mix. He's kind of a hybrid.
He actually played really well
Hyder's
inside
hybrid.
during the preseason.
Yeah, he's more of an edge. He's more of an edge.
So those two are going to be brought back. They're going to be re-signed. Larry Beal. Yeah, Larry Beal. Robert Beal will be put on IR. Kevin Givens, Cleveland Farrell, Drake Jackson, Kalia Davis, and then my favorite guy in the whole world, Javon Kinlaw. Yeah. Javon Kinlaw's only made this team because they literally don't have a ton of depth at defensive tackle. So lucky for him, because I am not a Javon Kinlaw fan. Bash knows this. Anybody who watches my channel knows that I can't stand the guy. I think he's a bully. I think he talks too much, and he's produced zilch in the pros. So yeah. And if he wants to come attack me, I'm ready.
He produced a really big run for the Chargers the other night. That 70-yard run they had was because he got blown out.
This man consistently gets moved out of the way so that run
several
plays
gaps.
can right, and then is talking and talking and talking.
Javon 2 gaps, Kinlaw. Not he eats 2 gaps. He gets shoved 2 gaps.
Guy's freaking that he's heavier than he was last year, playing with more muscle. Yet, dude's still getting moved like nothing. Just whatever. See, that's what happens when you draft to replace a all-star or a all-pro player. You can't 1-for-1 it. It rarely works. 1-for-1 trade. Oh, we're gonna trade this guy away and then we're gonna draft his replacement. Yeah, how'd that work out? It doesn't always work. So.
No doubt. The one hope I have for him is that maybe part of it was just because there was no Bosa, Kinlaw, or Hargrave, Armstead, what have you, that you won't have 2 guys that could blow him, sideways as easily. I had a feeling. I know.
You said blow him. Dude.
I had a feeling he. Some of them I know were single teams, but I think some of them were double teams too, because there just was nobody else they had to worry about on the line.
Oops. What was that?
I don't know what happened.
My camera just blanked out on me. Okay, anyways. And then, of course, special teams. We have Jake Moody, Mitch Wisnowski, and Tabor Pepper. That's our 53. I'll read the practice squad right now. So defensive lineman Alex Barrett, fullback Jack Coletto, wide receiver Chris Conley, defensive lineman Marlon Davidson, tight end Troy Fumagalli, who I'm very happy that they brought back. Alfredo Gutierrez. Why? I don't know.
Free spot. He's just goodwill.
Running back Brian Hill. Cornerback Quantrez Knight. Yay. Wide receiver Tay Martin. Yay. Defensive tackle Ty McGill. Yay.
Yeah.
Linebacker Curtis Robinson. Nah. Wide receiver Willie Snead. Very happy. Cornerback Trey Swilling. I'm indifferent.
Yeah.
Offensive tackle Leroy Watson. I'm cool with that. And then wide receiver Isaiah Winstead. I'm cool with that too. So not a bad dude. Not a bad practice squad. I mean, they
T.Y. McGill's another one that we might lose. I don't think it's as likely as Coletto, but he'd probably be my second most. Him or Conley, I think, are two that I
would start Ty McGill over freaking Javon Kinlaw right now.
Yeah,
I don't know what you guys in the comments.
If it wasn't for the guaranteed money, you'd probably see that already, or we would have just cut Kinlaw. He wouldn't even be on the team.
He's ass cheeks, dude. He sucks. He sucks.
Buns.
What does he do? What does he do? What does he do great? People want to yell at me and say that I'm mean to him. What does Kinlaw do great? What does he do? Is he a run stuffing defensive tackle who pushes guards and centers into the backfield? No. Can he rush the passer on a consistent basis? No. Is he always hurt? Yes. Does he talk too much and not produce? Yes. He sucks. And I don't care. I don't like him. I'm not usually bullish on players, but I just don't like him. I hate players that talk, that don't produce. My dad always used to say, do it, then brag about it. Like, if you can throw hands in a fight and you think you're a tough guy, go prove it. If you think you can go be good at sports and kick everybody's ass, go prove it. Don't talk. Talking's for people that know that no one's going to call them out on their bullcrap. So I have no love for the guy. So what's up, Frank Tom Ocean?
Talk is cheap, but Kinlaw's contract isn't.
Right. He's here because they have to pay him.
Guaranteed. Yeah,
to be fair, his last game he did well until he got. Yeah, but he was, dude. He's been going against like third and fourth string players. Second, like, if you can't take advantage of those reps against those level of professional football players, what makes you think you're going to do well against starting offensive linemen on, like, say, the Eagles or something? You're not. He got dog walked freaking in the NFC Championship game, like, with ease. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, let's see. The Niners. So part of their kicking situation is that they're going to. I think Zane Gonzalez is going to be one of those like releases where it's like a medical. What do they call it? Where an injury settlement type situation. So Zane Gonzalez will be gone, and like I said, we think what's his name will be back.
It's too bad because I think they wanted to trade Zane Gonzalez away.
Yeah, you think they wanted to get something for him? Yeah, that's too bad.
Well, there was a ton of kicker trades the other day. I mean, it was like a kicker carousel was spinning fast.
Luke doesn't agree with me about Kinlaw. He says he hasn't got to play, get comfortable with the strength and speed at his level. I don't know, man. I just feel like he's got so many excuses that people talk about. Not saying you, Luke, but just in general. I think, I don't know.
I mean, it's possible. It takes the defensive tackles a lot of times 2-3 years of like full seasons of play. So I'm not ruling it out. I just don't think it'll be here.
If he does have a resurgence, like you said, it's not going to be on the 49ers. It'll be somewhere else. He's got the physical body to do it. The guy's a Greek god. I wish I looked like that. But his knees are as bad as mine, and I'm 40. I'm 43. I'm 43, almost 44, and that dude's got as creaky as knees as I do. So I don't know. I'm just a big fat meanie. He's like, I'm going to Bruce Lee my punching bag right now and prove to my dogs how tough I am. Awesome. Yeah. People who talk mess, I'd rather, like, and when it comes to fighting, like, just do it. Like, there's people you think are tough, and then as soon as you confront them or get in their face, they melt. And then the ones that always worry me are the ones that don't talk, that are really quiet. Those are the guys that scare me, because they probably know some sort of like mixed martial arts or some sort of submission, or like they touch me in like my shoulder and my body just completely freezes up or something, pressure points or something. So,
or they're packing heat. Pause.
Or they're packing heat. Pause. That could mean more than one thing, by the way, guys. That pretty much is it as far as what we were going to talk about. Any other stuff that's on your mind about the 49ers that we could rattle off?
I'm revising my win totals down. I was 12-5 or 11-6 with the former QB room, and with Bosa being signed in time. And, also Hufanga has that Baker cyst on his knee. That's a concern to me because it's not an injury in itself, but it's basically a symptom of an injury to your knee. A lot of times it says that you have meniscus injury. So we could see Huff miss some time. A lot of times those are 4 to 6 weeks. If it's just the shaving of the meniscus, obviously. If it's a bad meniscus tear where you have to have it repaired, that can eat most of a season. So that's a concern for me. Hufanga, kicker's a concern. Bosa's a concern. QB2 is a concern. O-line depth is a big concern now. So yeah, I'm revising my totals down. I'm gonna say 11-6 for the season, maybe 10-7 if I was too optimistic.
You think the Niners are going to take that big of a step back this year?
I do. Like I'm saying, I don't think Super Bowl. I don't think we'll win the Super Bowl. People are like, oh, well, that's easy to bet the field. The 31 teams will win. I'm like, yeah, but 31 teams don't have the best roster in football minus the QB position, which is I still think we do have, assuming that Bosa can get going for week one. And but even with Bosa ready, he didn't get McKivitz ready, or at least he hasn't done it yet.
Right.
And so that's a really big concern going against TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. Essentially every down will be one of those two guys.
Ted, are you getting a Cowboys jersey?
There you go. Now, I had a tweet where I said, I've been a Niners fan since 76. Nothing's going to change that. I'm not happy with Kyle. I don't believe that Purdy is the answer. But, I'm rooting for Purdy. I hope Purdy proves me wrong. I hope Kyle proves me wrong too. But the only way that I'm going to apologize to Kyle is if we win a Super Bowl this season. That's it. Anything short of that, we've done it before. And
right.
So,
no, I agree. I don't agree necessarily with your record prediction. The lowest I would go would probably be 6 as far as losses.
Mm-hmm.
But 12-5 is kind of where I'm at. 12-5, 12-5. What did I say? 13-4, something around there. 13-4 is a lofty wish. Just because I think we have a hard schedule this year. So 12-5 or even 6 losses. It all depends on what the rest of the conference looks like. We can say right now that this team and that team is going to have a bad year, or this team might have a good year. Like people are like, oh, the Lions. I'm like, until the Lions prove it, I really don't want to hear it. Like if the Lions after like 10, 12 weeks are really good, then I'll give them their flowers. But like, remember the Cardinals a couple years ago? They started really hot and then they fell apart. If anything, the Niners have proven to me is they might start slow, but they can finish great. And they still seem like to make their way through the playoffs. They just haven't won it. I think the only way the Niners win the Super Bowl this year is they have to get the number 1 seed, because they got a lot of road games. They don't have a lot of rest days this year, and it's going to be crucial to have them get some rest and then get some home games in Levi's. Because I think if even Levi's, a rematch against the Eagles and Levi's, I think the Niners have a chance to win that game. I really do. I mean, they really have to play well, but got a long time till then. Hopefully the Niners start fast. Hopefully we win the Super Bowl, and so Ted can be wrong, and now yell at him, tell him how much of a stupid head he is. But I understand your disgust and your anger towards how Trey Lance was.
I just guarantee you I'm not the only one, and including in the locker room. There are some people, I think you could safely say Brandon Ayuk, but I think there are probably a few others in there that felt like Trey got done dirty. And they're probably unhappy with Kyle and the regime for making the pick in the first place, using all those draft picks. Because, look, here's the deal. I'm saying Kyle needs to win a Super Bowl moving forward, like right now. But, like, we're kind of excusing the fact that we didn't win a Super Bowl the last 2 years. And, like, what if we had drafted Micah Parsons instead and had both first-round picks and spent those on quality players like Waddle or whoever, late round, first round picks, I think we would have won at least one of those 2 Super Bowls in 2021 or 2022. So like, it's not just the future ones. I'm like starting to revise the past too now, because until we got rid of Trey, it was always like, well, Trey could redeem it. He could always redeem the pick. Now it's like the worst pick in 49ers history and one of the worst picks in NFL history. And we traded him to the goddamn Cowboys. And if he balls out there, if he comes here and beats us week 5 or knocks us out of the playoffs, I mean, this is doomsday apocalypse, worst case scenario. Like, I don't know how you move on from that.
That would be every 49er fan who disagreed with the move would have every right to go at the organization, coaches, everybody, let's hope that doesn't happen.
I
I
hope it doesn't
am
happen.
a big proponent of Brock Purdy, but I am not delusional in my assessment of Brock Purdy. I think Brock is different than Jimmy. I think Brock can handle pressure better. I think Brock reads the field better. He's just small and he has a weak arm and he can't make a lot of the throws that, you want your quarterback to make. Now, with that being said, no guarantee they win the Super Bowl. I have to get a feel for the season first after I'd say about 6 weeks before I could start giving you like an honest answer of what kind of direction I think the season's going to go. Right now, there is a really odd feeling out there as fans. It's just an uneasiness, just the way everything's been handled. Bosa hasn't been signed yet. The kicking situation, the Trey Lance situation, but according to Kelts, Rich, he says, does Kyle deserve an apology even with a Super Bowl? Would Kyle apologize to the faithful? Respect is respect. I will be happy for the 49ers, never Kyle. Yeah, Rich is not a he's kind of grown weary of Kyle Shanahan. I'm indifferent with Kyle. I look at Kyle as a really, really, really good coach. I think he has a massive ego, though. Massive ego. And I think Kyle rather be right than maybe be successful because he wants his way to be the way. And I can see personally, just from my mind's eye, looking as a spectator, I just have a vibe that him and John Lynch, not everything is hunky-dory with them like it used to be. I don't know if you get the same vibe, but I feel like there's a little bit of dissension that happened probably with the Trey Lance situation. What do you think?
I mean, if Matt Miyoko is mad at Kyle, then I'm sure he's not the only one. I never thought I'd see Matt Miyoko come out with a tweet like he did in the last week saying how they botched it. And then today he was getting on Kyle and Kyle was asking him questions back and it was spicy. And I've never seen that out of Matt Miyoko before. So yeah, I think if like one of the biggest Homer reporters out there is having issues with Kyle, then you can bet that he's not the only one. I wouldn't be shocked if Lynch has similar concerns.
Here's the thing. This is the thing that really, really gets to me. When they brought in Darnold this offseason, the writing was on the wall for Trey Lance immediately. And there was never a question of who was going to start if healthy. It was going to be Brock Purdy. They said it in the offseason. Leader in the clubhouse, what essentially meant if he wouldn't have gotten hurt in the NFC Championship game, he's the starter, no question. Then you bring in Sam Darnold, who they paid all that money to bring him in to compete with Trey Lance. To me, once they brought him in to compete with Trey Lance, I knew Trey Lance was, regardless of how well he played or did not play, he was going to be, subjugated? I don't even know if that's a word, to third string. And
relegated.
I don't blame relegated. So for him to want to be out of here, yeah, I totally understand that. It's good.
I'm proud of Trey for doing that.
Because he hasn't really been a guy, Trey Lance, who makes a lot of noise or talks a lot or has a fiery disposition. I think that's one thing that I will say went against him as playing quarterback for the Niners.
Absolutely.
He's a little timid. He was a little reserved. He didn't have that, just pissed off like Dan Marino yelling at his wide receivers for running the wrong routes kind of. I'm not saying he has to be that guy, but Brock Purdy's like this slight little guy, and yet he's screaming at Trent Williams. He's telling guys, that they ran the wrong route or this, that, and the other. You need that from your starting quarterback. I think there has to be a level of accountability on the field, and I think the quarterback essentially is an extension of the head coach. And in that way, I get Brock. I don't know. Trey Lance, to me, it was untapped potential that we never got a chance to see. And I just think it was the right thing to move him at this point. He was never going to get an opportunity to be the starting quarterback, and they were never going to wait for him. They were essentially a win now team with a quarterback that needed development. And the only way it would have gotten development is the year that they actually drafted him, if they just started him from scratch and said, you know what, we're going to jeopardize this year. And we're not going to go to the Super Bowl. and maybe he has a 10-7 year or a 500 season, and he has some up and downs, but at least he gets a taste of what it is to be an NFL quarterback.
Well, that's what they kind of tried to claim in hindsight. This thing of like, oh, well, I get the feeling like the Niners were willing to, sacrifice wins to develop Trey in 2022. But Kyle didn't do that at all. He ran him right into the ground because Kyle felt the only way to win was by running Trey all the time, especially up the middle. And so they didn't. If you want to develop Trey, you call the same plays for Trey as you called for Jimmy and you called for Brock. The same offense, maybe a little bit of RPO here or there, but not designed runs up the middle and plays that are, either a handoff or QB runs up the middle. That's just not a way to have longevity.
I just don't like giving. I don't like giving.
He doesn't slide well. He barely had slid, and since he got here.
Right. Kelt says, I love the 49ers logo well before Kyle, and I will love it after Kyle. It's not about the trade. It's not about the trade Trey. It's about representing the logo with class, dignity, integrity, and heart. Kyle reps himself. Here's my thing, and I don't disagree or agree. I'm a little bit in the middle with this one. If there is a better option out there that's available, I would be more than happy to entertain the option of maybe, if not this year, next year, if he doesn't get it done, to move in a different direction. My question to people who say that, and I'm not bagging on you, Rich. My question is, who comes in and takes over? Like who's the better option? Give me a better option. The better option, coaches for the Chiefs or the Broncos. Maybe the Eagles right now, you could say.
Steelers.
The Steelers. Though, I mean, that's the only level coach that you like. If Mike Tomlin became available tomorrow and Kyle Shanahan had another losing season, I would be totally understanding if the Niners said, you know what, we're going to move in a different direction.
Bring Harbaugh back.
I don't know if that would work, to be honest with you. I don't know if the players here would like him.
I don't know. Yeah. He's a little rah-rah.
He's a little, he's more of a college guy. People say that he wears on you after a couple of years, and that's just enough time to be in college and get out.
Yeah. I've said that myself. I look, what I say to people when they're like, well, who are you going to pick, Dad? I said, obviously it's not my job to pick the coach, but to me, it's like anyone who will get us a franchise QB, because I feel like to win multiple Super Bowls, you can win a one-off with one of these defense super teams, with all the weapons and a also ran QB, but to have sustained success in the NFL and win multiple Super Bowls, it's pretty much proven you have to have a franchise QB. And that's what I need. And people are like, oh, well, Ted, if you think Kyle sabotaged Trey, then how come you can, say that if he wins a Super Bowl, that's okay? I'm like, because if he is right and we win the Super Bowl, then I have to say he was right to let Trey go. But if we don't, then I'm going to say it was a mistake, especially if Darnold comes in and doesn't play well. That, which is what I would expect if Darnold comes in. Then it starts to get a little tougher to defend your buddy Kyle Shanahan. Not your buddy, but the apologist's buddy.
Kyle says, I don't want to fire Kyle, but it doesn't mean I have to bow and respect. No, I understand.
And people bring up a good point. Like if we did fire him, there'd be 20 to 25 teams lining up the next day to bring him in. And that's fine. I just feel like at some point, if you decide that you're not going to win a Super Bowl with Kyle Shanahan, then you cut ties and you risk taking a step back. People say Tom Sula and Chip Kelly, but Tom Sula and Chip Kelly were also the victims of Trent Baalke, who sabotaged our roster. So with a roster like this, I think Baalke or Tom Sula, or not Baalke, Tom Sula or Chip Kelly would do well. Chip Kelly maybe not, because that style just doesn't work for the pros. But I think somebody like Tom Sula could be okay. The bottom line is, I don't mind taking a step back as long as we're taking a step towards maybe finding the right guy once you know that the guy that's there isn't right. I think that you can't be afraid of taking a step back. You can't.
Maya 0724, he says 3 NFC championship games in 4 years, and we're talking about changing coaches. Are you kidding me? I don't want to. I don't want to change coaches, and I don't think that is necessarily the right option. But I do understand the overarching feeling of Kyle doesn't prioritize having a franchise quarterback as one of your key roster pieces. This regime is build everything else out and have an also ran quarterback. And then Kyle even himself, and this is where Kyle loses me, and I love Kyle Shanahan. He goes, well, he was talking about the teams that have like done it without quarterbacks like Brad Johnson or
he himself said it's really tough to do.
And the fact that he can only took those two options as an example, it's the Niners are kind of trying to square peg in a round hole the whole way of winning Super Bowls, and so far it hasn't worked.
Yeah, and there is some brilliance to zigging when other people zag. In other words, if everybody's spending a ton of dough and draft capital on QBs and O-line and receivers, then defense and running backs are going to be cheaper relatively. You're going to have so many people fighting. So you can get more for your money by focusing on those areas. I just don't know that it's a sustainable way to win Super Bowls. And so far it hasn't been. But, like I said, I mean, I'm not saying fire Kyle now, but, people keep assuming that we're just going to be back in the NFC Championship again this year. And I think it's a really big assumption. I don't think that you can count on that. And I think that if a few things break the wrong way, if we, miss the playoffs or one and done in the playoffs, I think y'all are going to feel a lot a different way about this whole situation. And so I'm sort of looking more to the future. As of now, there's no way you could fire Kyle. Absolutely. He deserves to have the chance to show that he's put together a team that can do it. He's put together this team. Now we need to see what happens.
Maya says that Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. Is he a franchise QB? But even though I'm quote unquote pro Kyle, you're actually making the argument for the other against Kyle is that the outliers barely win Super. It's a very hard
Dilfer.
Right.
Jim
Those
McMahon.
are outliers.
Yeah. They're exceptions to the rule.
Yeah. Look at all the Super Bowl champions. They always have great quarterbacks. Say what you want about. I think Jalen Hurts really stepped up last year. He was really good in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I know they were kind of like they were bagging on him. I know there was a little bit of talk on ESPN how Burrow maybe is a better quarterback overall, and I kind of agree with that a little bit, just because Burrow has played with a really awful offensive line, and they were talking about how Hurts has this great offensive line, this great running game, and this great receivers, and this and this and that. So I can understand kind of that argument, but it's really tough to win a Super Bowl with just a an average to a slightly above average quarterback. And I do agree, Hurts has one of the best offensive line. Yeah, that was the argument on ESPN today when they were talking about.
And none of them won two. That's the other part that I'm getting at. It's like, hey, I want more than one Super Bowl. I'm greedy. I want to win 2 or 3. And it's not necessarily realistic, but that's what I want. And so I feel like if we have a franchise QB, you got a much better chance of doing that than this super team with no. And look. Purdy could end up being a franchise QB. I've been saying he has a limited arm, limited height, limited top speed, limited throwing chart. I don't know if we talked about that last week, Aaron, but I
looked at the throwing chart. I've seen what you mean. He throws to one side pretty much all the time.
It's like, Zoolander Purd.
And Jimmy Garoppolo only threw to the middle of the field.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Jimmy's passing chart, everything here and here was red. Yeah. And everything in the middle, bright green.
Yeah. Especially in the mid-range in the middle. Yeah. So, ultimately, all those limitations he has, none of them is the most important thing for a quarterback. None of them is a deal breaker by themselves. And none of them is a deal breaker as a group. But as a group, when you're missing all 3 of those things and have that limited throwing chart, just makes it very, very difficult. And, I've been saying that Purdy was mid last season. before he got injured, and he just doesn't seem to be as good since. You know, I think I've been talking about this since our last show, but basically, like because the last preseason game was Friday, and basically in the preseason, Purdy's been nothing but dink and dunk. And you know me, Aaron, I never said that about him before the preseason started.
You're 100% right. You're 100%
He has nothing
right.
but dink and dunk. He threw 0 TD passes. And, you know, and so I have concerns about these deep balls because I saw him in camp where everything was short and long that he threw deep. And again, I heard from some practices that, you know, weren't the 9 open ones that I went to. It sounded like he got a little bit better with the deep shots. But you never really know when somebody is reporting just because he made a pass that was caught by Kittle, but it was terribly underthrown. And Kittle was tagged down when Kittle should have had a walk-in TD if it was a good ball. So just because somebody catches a ball doesn't mean it's a good ball.
Yeah, like the one to Ayuk, that touchdown they threw or almost touchdown last season, that was a horribly underthrown pass.
Yeah.
And in a way, I think it being underthrown actually made it to why he caught it. If that actually would have gotten there when, I don't know, it was.
Yeah, there was a defender there. Yeah.
I understand that.
It's so bad that it turned out great. You know, like that. Jimmy had a bunch of those. But anyway,
here's the thing. I understand your viewpoint on Brock Purdy because in my mind, I keep looking at him and kind of being like, I like him and I'm happy he's a starter. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, like just physically looking at him, he just doesn't pass the eye test.
He's tiny, especially upper body. He's baby Bosa in his thighs. And so like his upper body is small and it concerns me for his longevity, especially since he's already been injured now. Well, twice. I mean, honestly, the one wasn't serious, the ribs and oblique, but obviously the UCL was serious. So yeah, it's a concern.
I will say this, and I kind of agree with Luke Luna, because if you want to go with the body size thing, I mean, all the quarterbacks here got hurt. He says, if you look at health, Trey was hurt in every game. I don't think he was hurt in every game played, but he was hurt quite a bit.
Not in the Texans or Bears games.
It's not like he's a huge QB. I mean, he was pretty tall, 6'4" and change, as far as weight. But they make it seem like Purdy's going to miss a game if he's touched. No, like I agree. The thing with me is like, protect your freaking quarterback, regardless of who he is. If he's Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, or Brock Purdy. That's the one thing that I will say the Niners organization really pissed me off with, is if you're going to go draft a guy like freaking the kicker, like the fact that they didn't even try to draft an offensive tackle in the draft. They didn't get one.
I mean, I guess that's one good thing we can say about Matt Pryor. He can't fit the zone blocking. He's like the bizarro world Mike McGlinchey, right? Because McGlinchey was this great run blocker who got owned in pass blocking. Matt Pryor's a pretty darn good pass blocker. He just is too big and slow to do the zone scheme running outside zone. So maybe that does make some sense of why they kept him. To have him and Trent Williams as bookends if something happens to McKivitz. And McKivitz is a better pass blocker than McGlinchey too. So, and Brendel's a better pass blocker than run blocker. So maybe they are really starting to Burford's still too young to really know what his strengths and weaknesses are this season, but hopefully he'll get better at pass blocking too. I mean, it is reasonable to assume that Banks, Brendel, and Burford will all improve this season in their second year.
I mean, we really haven't seen them. We really haven't seen them, and we didn't really see them in the preseason as far as like everybody together. I just want to say hi to Fired Up 49ers. He's been recently coming into my stream, and I've seen him in a couple other streams. He seems like he's new to YouTube. I just want to say hello. Appreciate your support, even if it's just coming in to say what's up.
Go ahead. I was going to say, speaking of dual streams, we totally forgot to mention, like, if you're watching on the browser, watch both shows at once.
Yeah.
If you're on a phone, whip out your tablet and do 2 devices at once. If you're on my channel, make sure you like 49ers First Takes and give him a subscribe. And same thing, if you're on Aaron's channel, pop over to TED Talks Ball and do the same. It really helps us to keep doing what we do for you.
Yeah, help us cross-pollinate. If you're on one channel and if you're not multi-viewing, go support the other channel. Drop a like and subscribe either way. That would be cool. It helps the algorithms find us smaller YouTubers that are not, getting 600 to 900 people watching us at once, you know. So it's cool. And as David McNider says, oh, I didn't even realize he has his own little profile thing now. Sweet. Nice job, David. He said, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. It's free. You know what also David always says? F those lambs. He hates the Rams.
I'm more of a Seahawks hater. Seahawks, Cowboys, Eagles.
Yeah, Cowboys are still a team that I can't stand. Although I have two really good friends that are Cowboys fans that I love to death. They're really good guys. But I just hate the team that they root for. So I secretly always give them kudos after we beat
my old
them.
trainer is a big Cowboys fan. He was great. Trainer/therapist. Onzo, if you're watching, he's amazing.
I just got to say that hopefully this isn't in the year where the Cowboys beat us in the playoffs.
Especially not with Trey Lance at the quarterback. I think it's unlikely that Lance will see the field a lot this year. He's QB3. Cooper Rush is QB2. It'd be really hard for him to like beat out Cooper Rush with limited reps, you know, between now and the end of the season. But injuries happen, and if Dak and Cooper Rush both go down, absolutely you'll see Trey Lance.
Do you think this is the last place he goes, or do you think he could go somewhere else again?
I think it's a good situation for him. I think Dak, you know, is coming up on a new contract after 2024. So in 2 seasons here, Dak's contract is up, and I think he could be leveraged if nothing else. So, I mean, Trey picked it. Somebody was saying, oh, I think it's a terrible spot for Trey. And then Ryan G. Hensley basically said that, you know, not only was the Cowboys the strongest offer with a 4th-round pick, but Trey wanted them the most as his destination. He felt like it was the best. It's kind of interesting that Dak and Trey really had almost the exact same injury too. You know, this sort of broken fibula in your ankle with 2 torn ligaments in the ankle as well too.
I want to ask Randy Daytona, are you just not a big proponent of Trey Lance? I'm just going to put it out there. I'm kind of picking up a vibe.
Yeah, Randy's he's a big Kyle and Purdy guy, and so he's always on me.
I'm a Kyle and Purdy guy, but I'm a fence rider. That's why a lot of people don't watch me, because I can always see both sides of the argument, and I'm cool with that either way. Fired Up 49ers says Cowboys, Raiders, Rams, Seahawks. Yeah, Seahawks probably would be 1. Cowboys would be 2. I freaking hate the Rams. Raiders, we barely play them, so I really don't care. There's not a ton of teams that I hate. I hate the Chiefs, but for different reasons. I don't hate them in a traditional way. I hate them because every time we play them, they kick our ass. Like, we do not match up well with the Kansas City Chiefs. One thing I noticed about this preseason, Ted, and I don't know if you had, I know it was a lot of backups playing, but man, we look worse against running QBs with the option to run than we ever have.
And runs up the gut too. We got gashed up the middle.
What is up with? Do they even practice mobile quarterbacks off the edge? Like that's insane. Again, I know it was a bunch of backups, but dude, what's been the one big thing in all the time that Kyle and John have been here that the 49ers have a hard time stopping?
Mobile QBs, yeah.
Or this thing where they rush up the field and they rush past the quarterback. I remember watching.
Well, they're contained. They go inside.
I screamed during the preseason game. I said, "You're still doing that? Like, really? How do you rush past a quarterback?"
Well, I think in preseason, part of it is people are just fighting for their jobs, so they're not as worried about the team dynamic, you know, the overall big picture, because they're just trying. But I do have to get going here before too long.
All right. Yeah,
I didn't realize kicks in 2 minutes, though.
Yeah. Everybody, hey, listen, go to Ted Talks Ball YouTube channel and subscribe to him. And if you wouldn't mind, drop a like on his channel as well. And the same for 49ers First Takes. If you liked what you saw today and want to see more, we do this every Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. And I'll just leave off with Keltz's comment. He says, "You're just an understanding dude, Aaron, who doesn't play favoritism, hate the other game." No, because I'd be ignorant to be that way.
But you do have takes. You just try to look at it from all different angles, which is important.
There's no absolute in sports. There's no absolute. So everybody have a great rest of your evening. Everybody take care. If you're on the West Coast, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I'm coming on 8 o'clock here. Take care. Stay safe and healthy. Go Niners. And we'll see you next Wednesday on another episode of First and Ted. See ya.
Peace. Go Niners.